All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining tonight. My name is Shay Sapp. I'm a co-director for SNAP. Katie Rudowski is also on the call. She's the other co-director. We're joined tonight by a group that wants to tell us a little more about a potential project in the neighborhood taking place at 467 Chestnut Avenue. I'd like to say let's hold questions to the end after they've finished their presentation. And then we also have a few polling questions set up towards the end of the presentation where we'll get some feedback from the community as well. So I'm going to start out by just kicking it over to Christian Dial and let him kind of introduce himself and maybe his team, and then start the presentation from there.
Yeah, thanks, Shay. I'm Christian Dial, and our company is CIG Communities. We also have some other project team members on the call, and also Greg Casero, partner here, is with me here, and then Danny McKelvey is also with our team on the call, and we make up a good chunk of our development team in our company. Also on this project team is Kaiser Vogren Design as landscape architect, and Fulmer Lucas is our civil engineer. Studio M is our main architect of record, that would be the planned architect, and then Manuel Zeitland is also consulting architect for this project if it were to come to fruition. And then we are also fortunate enough to be utilizing Hall Strategies' office here, since we're coming in from out of town today. But just wanted to take some time to give anybody who is interested in hearing about this project, give a quick project update and overview of what our planned proposal is for this site at 467, 469 Chestnut, and kind of in the heart of one of the main Wedgwood Houston mixed use corridors. And so we're excited to present this stuff today to you guys and get some feedback and just get really some ideas from you guys on what we can incorporate into the project that we can hopefully keep moving forward with if everyone is pretty happy with the idea here. So with that, I'll continue on. So for those of you that don't know, we're a Cincinnati-based developer. We started coming down to Nashville in the last couple of years to try to identify some places that we felt like we could find a niche in the area here, and we really grew to love Wedgwood Houston, and the more I get to know about it, the more that I want to spend time down here, and I think it's a really unique neighborhood, and it's exciting for us to want to be a part of it. And so like I said, we're from Cincinnati. We've been in business since the early 1980s. And Greg has been a long time part of our company as well. And I joined the company a little over 5 years ago. And we're just a vertically integrated small shop development company, but we do some large projects. We only pick a couple projects at a time and focus on those. Our whole team focuses on those, and we try to do site-specific developments that are really curated and tailored towards certain neighborhoods and certain sites. And these are just some examples of projects that we've done in recent years. One kind of within driving distance, a shorter driving distance, Cincinnati, we did recently was Edge on 4, which is in downtown Louisville. We finished that project a couple of years ago. So just a quick overview on location. Here is the site location. It's a little under an acre. It's right by the United Record Pressing facility right there, the original facility there on Chestnut. and it's located in the character area 1 of the Wedgwood Houston Chestnut Hill Planning Study. And what we are proposing to do here is a SP, so a site-specific plan development with a 5-story building, and it includes multifamily as the primary use. We would also be bringing Braxton Brewing Company down to Cincinnati, or from Cincinnati to Nashville, to be a part of our project. They're a microbrewery that's has a really good reputation in Cincinnati, and they distribute down into Nashville, and they'd like to come and have a local presence here. So we're excited they're a part of this project, and they're really excited about the opportunity to bring a location into Wedgwood Houston, because they feel like it really meets a lot of their brand and how they started their brewery. So over to the right, some imagery of the existing location and what's there now. It's a screen printing company facility, and in kind of a 1970s or 80s built warehouse building. So I just wanted to quickly go over some of the concept. When we kind of started with this development plan, we looked heavily at the Wedgwood Houston Chestnut Hill planning study, and the site is zoned IR right now. So we would, this, as I've learned, is this what planning study was put together to kind of help guide the growth of Wedgwood Houston and the planning and development moving ahead. So we look to this document to kind of help us come up with a development plan for our site here. And we're, like I said, we're in the character area 1 of North Wedgwood Houston, and it speaks to some of the change that has happened in Wedgwood Houston, some of the renovations of spaces that have happened, and some new buildings, and also that promotes dense housing and to create a more vibrant, walkable commercial neighborhood that also adds services to the broader community. Adaptive reuse is encouraged when it's not adaptive reuse as possible. New construction should reflect and respond to the surrounding industrial buildings. And later on, it shows you a zoning table that I have on the next page that kind of speaks to uses, and everybody on this call is probably pretty familiar with, but just wanted to go over it just to kind of, because this was kind of my guidebook and coming up with a development plan to start with. So if you hit these 4 criteria, increased height could be appropriate, it says. So it's providing active uses and enhanced streetscaping, and adaptive reuse with other parts of the site, accompanied by urban industrial uses located in lower lying areas. So, those are important to go above this table. The height specified for character area 1 is 3 to 4 stories, and then see sub-districts descriptions for conditions when hired. So some of the uses that are that were brought up that they would like to have in this area are listed here as well when you incorporate mixed-use residential. So we're hitting the microbrewery one. We have some other ideas of some other things we'd like to tie into their urban industrial uses as well, and mixed use with the residential. And then we are hitting, besides the adaptive reuse, we're hitting all of the criteria for increased height. And our building is a 5-story building. So we're just asking for 1 extra story beyond this in the table. So quick project history update. We have been concept planning this and kind of going through some iterations of this proposal for feels like a while now. We met with Snap back in July to show some preliminary images and concepts of our project. We had some mixed feedback, but ultimately we determined that we needed to hone in on the planning side, make sure that from a planning policy standpoint and also the planning department had a chance to look at this to determine where there might be some deficiencies in what this proposal would entail. So we did a pre-application. Sorry about that. We did a pre-application, got some preliminary feedback from the planning department. And then we also were told by them to submit for a formal SP so they could provide some more detailed feedback. So we went ahead and did that. Once we got some initial feedback from them, which largely was from a planning standpoint, positive feedback, just wanted some more clarity on the uses and determining the height calculations and whatnot. And then there was a lot of technical feedback needed from the other departments of planning or of the city, but they were, from a planning standpoint, it seemed like the project fits the boxes. There's just a lot more details and other things that need to be worked out. And from a community feedback standpoint, we wanted to pause the process with SP, go back to in front of groups within the community and get more stakeholder input to how to kind of perfect the project moving forward before we continue a process if we're to do that. So that's kind of where we're at to date. Here is just some concepts and uses spelled out for the project that we've kind of racked our brains on, and talking to people in the neighborhood and with our project team, just trying to come up with the ways we can make this project the best way possible, and how we can respond to things that we've heard are needs in the community. So just high level project stats, it's 151 multifamily units. There's a parking garage, a 2-level parking garage, 1 level is underground, with about 182 spaces. Braxton Brewing Company would occupy ground floor space and a rooftop deck space as well. Also, there's opportunity for maker spaces in the building that we can talk about later. And the building is 5 stories. So some concepts that we've come up with for consideration that we'd like to get some input on from anyone who's willing to give input on it, that we'd like to potentially bring into this project, is to really just let the community drive the design and the layout and the overall theme of this project. We're open to any ideas people have, and would like to hear as much feedback as possible on it. The affordability component, we'd like to bring some as much affordability to the project as we can. We're really big on doing mixed income communities. We do specialize in market rate multifamily, but in a lot of our projects, we've brought in ways and creative ways to bring in workforce housing into our projects. And so at a minimum, we would like to dedicate 10% of our units at the building and cap those at 80% of AMI. And one idea we had is a little typo here, my mistake there, but one idea we had is to encourage walkability of the building. We could also hold those out for a period of time for priority to people that work within a 1-mile radius. We also have an opportunity along the alley to create maker spaces that could also flex as garage spaces that could be rented out for somebody that needs a studio or wants to create a workshop or sell something out and needs just kind of a cheaper space in the neighborhood to work out of. So we have an idea of lining the alley with those. So that brings some affordability to office space or light retail space potentially. Sidewalk widening improvements, walkability and bikeability, plus street improvements. There's a lot that we can do to improve the streetscape in that area that we're excited to potentially do. And also with this project, there'd be stormwater mitigation and major system improvements around our site that we would be contributing to. Some other ideas are things that we typically, we do in all of our projects are co-working spaces and pool deck on the second level, fitness and amenity area. We also would like to try to tie into the local art scene as much as possible and help program and collaborate with I know the John, our neighbor, is really involved with the art scene and doing art walks, and we'd like to figure out how we can kind of bring the art walk down to our site and collaborate with it, and then have it continue on to other businesses and areas throughout the neighborhood. We also had an idea of collaborating with Braxton and creating a maker's space as a part of their space that they could offer craft beer and winemaking classes and offer a space that people can experiment with some home brewing, so they don't have to bring the smelly hops into their own homes. And then knowing that Wedgwood Houston is a very diverse community, and there's a lot of people that are starting to raise families and kind of as myself with a family, with young kids, we'd like to try to make our project as family friendly as possible, and creating opportunities along the streetscape and on the alley and in the public spaces to program areas that kids could come play in, maybe a fountain or inside Braxton, maybe there's an area that was more kid friendly, because most breweries that I go to nowadays, they have just as many kids there as there are adults, and they're hanging out and occupying the cornhole boards or whatever. So I think there's an opportunity to kind of respond to that as well. And basic things we do in all of our communities are electric car charging stations, offering zip car rentals, bike rentals, and yeah, and so we can hold it for the end, but we'd definitely like to get more feedback from anybody on this call that has ideas, or after, if something pops up in your head about some different concepts we should incorporate or look at incorporating, you can contact me directly.
Hey, Christian, just real quick, in the chat, I put a link to our development rubric. For the people on the call who don't know, Snap in the community had put kind of key initiatives together on different items we look for in development projects, and that's how we kind of evaluate the different projects that are brought to the neighborhood. And if you click on the rubric, you'll be able to see what those are and kind of match them up with what Christian's talking about. And he seems to be hitting on a lot of the items on the rubric, so maybe that'll give people on the call perspective as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Yeah, and that was another good piece of information that we got early on before we started site planning as well. And so, having organized front and helping developers come in and respond to exactly what the neighborhood needs are, that was really helpful for us to have clear direction from documents like that. And the planning study is a really good document. So, so here's the site plan. It's a smaller site. It's just about an acre. This second floor courtyard is elevated above the garage. We have a leave out area here that is just 2 stories tall here. The rest of this area is 5 stories. And here's just an example of some of the streetscape improvements from just a high level view of what would be done up there. Right now, Braxton is programmed at this location right here, and they'd also have a dedicated elevator on the roof deck. There'd be some space for them up there. Floor 1 and basement level are parking and retail. And then floors 2 through 5 are multifamily units. Here's a garage entrance here to the upper level of the garage. And then this is the entrance to the basement level of the garage. We also see an opportunity in the alley offset to do some hardscape and landscape programming to help really activate that and become more of a connected alley network. And so here are some just ideas that we can incorporate potentially into this project, and just kind of some visions that our team had put together to help kind of put things in perspective here. But this kind of setting, I think you can accomplish in this alley area potentially, and also maybe incorporate some fountains potentially. And then I also envision this side of the garage having some of those maker spaces, garage spaces that can kind of open up into this hardscape area. This is kind of the programming and visual that you can imagine out on the streetscape side. And then our pool deck imagery was represented there. And then we also have some images of what Braxton's facilities typically look like, or their main facility looks like, just to get an idea of what that could potentially look like on this project. One thing I'll mention about Braxton is they are they're really a community hub. So they are open, during the day, during the work week. And when you walk in there during the work week, you can see anything from, two friends hanging out and grabbing a beer in the afternoon, or you can see somebody, because they also serve coffee, you can see somebody that is just actually working from there, or doing some entrepreneurial endeavor in there. So it's much more than just a brewery. It's a community space more than anything, and that's what they really hang their hat on. And they, from a coffee standpoint, they don't do their own coffee. They usually partner with local groups to serve coffee or food and bring that also to their space. So and then down here is just kind of what one of those maker spaces could potentially look like, or studio spaces. So, if anybody's seen our project before, they've probably seen the colorized version. We had to start somewhere with an architectural design that we try to come up with something that looked somewhat representative of the urban industrial heritage of the neighborhood as a starting point. But this is just a starting point, and we're open to as much feedback as anybody wants to give on how the building looks, and different factors into the building. So we also wanted to provide it in black and white imagery that we can get feedback on, because it might be a little bit easier to envision some other options of what it could look like with it black and white. So we can revisit that too. But I want to thank everybody for their time, and sorry if I went into too many details, but we've been working really hard on what we've been doing to date, and was excited to bring it to you guys tonight. So this is my email address, and this is my cell phone number. Anybody is more than welcome to contact me at any time, and I'm happy to come meet with you one-on-one, or talk on the phone, or do a Zoom outside of this meeting, or you can text me any crazy ideas you have. So just wanted to make that myself accessible to everybody.
Sounds good. Thanks for that, Christian. So if anyone has questions, if you want to put them in the chat, or maybe raise your hand, we can go from there. But I'll ask a question or two real quick while people are kind of gathering their thoughts. Maybe with the parking situation, I think it showed that there's going to be 2 levels of parking, and is one going to be completely underground? I guess I was just curious about if that, like when you in your picture here, Is
Mhm.
there parking here and then one level below that on the bottom, or kind of how that would look?
So yeah, that's a good question. So this is a parking level behind this space back here.
Gotcha.
And then there's an underground level here. And then the way the site falls, I think about 14 or 15 feet across this grade plane. And this is a rendering, so it's not 100% easily followed here, but that this is technically a basement level down here. And so, yeah, it drops off quite a bit across our site. So that would be considered a basement level as well.
Got it. From the picture here, I guess the maker spaces are going to be on the bottom floor, right? Kind of the street level. Is that the plan?
Correct. So they would be on the back side. So the alley being back behind here.
Okay.
So the idea would be to create some garage doors off the back, at kind of that lower level space back here. And that opens up on the grade and doesn't face the alley.
Got it. Is there already an alley? There's already an alley behind the building, I assume, right? I'm not as familiar with the lot.
Yep. And right, yeah, so the alley's here and then we have an offset from the alley as well.
Got it.
And all of our entrances into the garage are off the alley.
That last picture you were showing, it looks like on the one end there's 6 stories. So it's 5 stories plus rooftop, right? Is the plan?
Yeah, so yeah, there's an elevator shaft that goes up to serve the rooftop space. Right now, we're showing this kind of covered piece up on the rooftop, to provide some shade, but yeah, it's 5 stories plus the rooftop.
Gotcha. I was counting that picture there. It looks like 6 to me, but maybe I'm
Yeah, so this is
kinda
the from a site view, it's this area right here.
Mhm.
And this, when you do the average grade calculation across each plane, we're 5 stories, and that's how the city calculates stories. So this end is 5 stories. There's the base, it's the highest end of the site. This end drops off quite a bit across the site. I think it's about 15 feet. And so that, imagine kind of like a walkout basement on a house. It's on a sloped lot. So that end does look like it's 6 stories.
I'll jump in real quick here and just a brief introduction. I'm Patrick Napier with Fulmer Lucas Engineering. I just came to Fulmer Lucas about 2 months ago. I spent the previous 6 years working for Metro Nashville Planning. So when we would see SPs like this in planning, we would, as Christian said, look at average grade, and the SPs are measured in height many different ways, and the zoning code itself measures height in many different ways for different structures and different zone districts. So we would often look at average grade and average stories across the site. Sometimes we would take 4 corners of the site, average the height on that. A lot of times that was more for single and 2 family. But for something like this, within the scope of planning's review, they would typically average that across the entire site relative to the grade surrounding it on each side.
Got it.
Yeah, and also kind of a part of the project history too, is this project started at 6 stories, but it had a, when we first presented this back in July, we were at 6 stories. This end looked like it was 7 here. And based off of a lot of feedback that we got from various parties, including planning, we went down and buried a level here. So we're down to 5 stories to just make that 1 story increase from what the planning study said.
I'll add some more detail. When we look at this site relative to the elevation across Wedgwood, Houston, and within the entire supplemental policy, on average, this site sits about 18 to 22 feet lower than some of our higher SPs we had previously approved. So if you're, depending on your vantage point within the neighborhood, outside the neighborhood, whether it be 4th Avenue, Chestnut, or any of the interior streets, you know, depending on that, you may not see this at all. You may see a fair amount if you're, you know, within a certain elevation. So also something to consider, and that's one of the criteria within our supplemental policy as well. So just wanted to make sure everybody had that perspective on average elevation relative to the entire neighborhood.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for that, Patrick. We had a couple questions in the chat. I'll throw your way, Christian. So one is, do you anticipate a designated area for shared ride app pickup and delivery, like food delivery, kind of controlling the traffic or activity that might come with stuff like that?
Yeah. So from a there's a lot of traffic, I guess, that you can say comes with those types of uses now. So we have Amazon deliveries and package deliveries that come in, and we anticipate creating a loading zone off the alley for that, and then a route into our package room internal to the building that is really user friendly for the delivery drivers. And then we would also create a designated loading zone for rideshare back off the alley as well. And we can denote that on our next conceptual site plan as well, to make sure that's specifically called out. That's a good question.
Cool. Next question. Appreciative of the presentation. They said passing out the flyers to notify community of the meeting was nice. They asked what you're looking for from SNAP in the neighborhood at this point with the project.
Yeah, as much feedback as we can get. We want to know, you know, if somebody sees an issue with this project or would like to see something incorporated in this project. We want to hear about it. We are kind of using this time to kind of take a pause and see and recalibrate and get as much, you know, feedback from everyone as we can. And then ultimately, you know, we'd love to have the support of as many people as we can. If people are supportive of the project, it helps give us a gauge on, you know, whether or not we should be pursuing it. I mean, kind of as a matter of fact, we don't take rezones lightly, and they're very difficult and labor intensive, and we're a pretty small development team, so we try to make sure that we allocate our time towards endeavors that, you know, people want to see happen and want that there's a positive momentum behind. And so we're just kind of trying to get a gauge from if people like this addition to the community, and also just try to make ourselves as more accessible to everybody so we can, you know, people can engage with us more.
That's great. Yeah, another comment. Love Braxton joining the neighborhood potentially. It does sound like a neat idea. I mean, we have a brewery and some distilleries, kind of the individual aspect coming in and brewing your own beer sounded like a neat touch to me as well. Braxton sounds kind of a neat operation. So we have some polling questions. I think I didn't get any more questions in the chat at the moment. So maybe if we do the polling questions quick, we can see if any more questions come in. So let me see if I can get this to work. So I'm going to launch the poll to the people on the call. I hope something popped up, maybe with 3 polling questions, if people wouldn't mind clicking through those. Then I'll read the results once we get everyone in. And so everyone on the call knows we'll post this to our Snap website when we're done the recording. And so if other people in the community ask about it, or people in the community who might be interested in the plan, feel free to direct them to the snaptn.org website, and then find the event on the calendar. And there should be a link to this recording so they can watch, and then they'll see Christian's contact information and ours as well. They can reach out.
Yeah, and we included contact info on the flyer as well. And I'm down here, and one of our other team members is down in Nashville quite a bit, and we're happy to meet virtually or in person in one-on-one settings or small group settings. And we would like to try to engage Converge too, to host a Converge meeting as well, to just try to get more eyes on the project in the neighborhood, because honestly that we have gotten a lot of really great ideas out of just community input so far. So I think it can be a really unique, really cool project at the end of the day.
Cool. That's great. So it looks like most people got their votes in. So I'll read the question and then some of the results quickly. So do you think that this project will be a benefit to the neighborhood? All the votes were for yes on that. We had 7 votes yes. Do you approve the project as it was presented today? It looks like the majority overwhelmingly was yes. Do you think this project responds well to the Wedgwood Houston Chestnut Hill adopted planning study? And then that one was also a yes. So like we had said, it seems to be a hit with people on the call. We'll continue to get feedback on this from the community, and then be in touch. As Christian had mentioned, it's an ongoing process, and he's looking for feedback and trying to get as much input from the people that'll be around this going forward. So there's another question here that says, remind us best case timing. Christian, do you have an idea of timeline? I know the projects like this can take a while, but kind of where things stand and the progress it's moving towards.
Yeah, it's really unclear timing. We're in definite deferral mode right now, and just trying to gather feedback. And we'll meet with anybody who wants to meet with us until everybody says like they're tired of meeting with us, and then maybe I think we can have a little bit more of a clear direction moving on from there. But once you're back into the SP process, I've been advised that it can take 6 to 9 months potentially, or longer, to get the SP approved. And then you also have to go in and get your development plan approved after that, and which can take another 4 months or so, and then permitting and whatnot. So it's a long process. You have to be really dedicated to these things, and they become your baby in a way. But yeah, so we're gonna keep progressing and trying to pursue this. Really appreciate the positive feedback, and I know that sometimes things pop up after calls, and you're just thinking about, or you drive by the site and something pops in your head. So serious, don't hesitate to reach out. So
sounds good. We got one more poll I'm going to launch quickly. So it says, do you think this project meets the minimum of 8 points based on the Wedgwood Houston design rubric? I'm not sure if everyone on the call had a chance to click on the link, but we basically have 5 categories: community character, housing diversity, transportation consideration, sustainability, and then artist and creative aspects. And you can score anywhere from a 0 to a 2 in each category. And the SNAP board basically evaluates the project with each category, and then scores it with an 8-point score or higher is kind of a recommended kind of support that we send on from SNAP. And so it looks like most people are saying yes, they feel like it would meet a passing score or an approval score. so we'll take that into consideration, obviously, and as more community inputs communicated, Christian, we'll evaluate these characters and kind of go from there. So
Okay.
sounds good. All right, well, I don't think any other questions are coming in. So with that, I think we find it here. So thanks, Christian, for the presentation. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
everybody's time. Yeah, and we'll again save this recording to our website. So if anyone wants to rewatch or pass it on to anyone else, feel free to look there, and it'll be there.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the time.
Cool. Yep. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
See ya.
Take care.